everyone, Angelina, Sparkling Diva, and today I want to talk about crystals. Taking care of your crystals. Oh, there's something there. I thought there was... Anyway, doesn't matter. Crystals. I have an awful lot of crystals, over 300 at the moment. They're all everywhere in my home, except for the bathroom and the hallways and the landing upstairs. As for the rest, everything is full up with crystals. Mostly high vibrational crystals, but I didn't start out with that either, because at the time, well, the thing is, you also have to be a match for high vibrational crystals. And when I started out, I wasn't there yet myself either. So the crystals I bought were a match for me, how I was, where I was at that moment in time. So it always is perfectly in order, in divine order. The difference is that when you have higher vibrational crystals, that and of course depends on the amount you have, they need less cleansing. And if you like crystals, you will probably notice that as well, or you have noticed it already, that when you yourself grow, evolve, develop, get to higher vibrations and all that stuff, that you also suddenly start to enjoy and like and feel pulled, attracted to different crystals. Types of crystals that you didn't like before at all. And yeah, that's how it went for me as well. So you basically evolve with the crystals, right? It's a process, a discovery, and it's just beautiful. And but there's always a lot of questions about the cleansing and the clearing and the charging and so on and so forth. Now, like I said, when you have a lot of crystals and high vibrational crystals, you don't really have to do that anymore, or not often. I hardly ever do that, and I'm glad for that as well, because with that many crystals, it would be a horrific task, you know. It would take me days, because I don't have that many larger glass bowls to cleanse them and put them in water and whatever, you know. So anyhow, let's talk about cleansing first. You can use different methods, of course, right? To decharge, to cleanse, to allow a crystal to rid itself of any more negative, dense energies that it might have taken on and that don't serve you nor the crystal. One of which I will say that first, otherwise I'm going to forget, is selenite, right? You can use these larger, flat, thin slabs of selenite. You can also buy bowls of selenite, and you can use that, or just I myself just use a rough wand and I just put the tumbles against it. And but if you have this slab or a bowl, you can put the crystals on it or in it, right? And then to allow them to cleanse, and you know, and the selenite will transmute that, will take care of it, and so on. Meaning selenite doesn't, generally speaking, need cleansing itself. It takes care of itself. That's the beauty of selenite. You can't put it in water because it's a gypsum. It's very soft. You can scratch it with your nail even. So it's not so handy to put it in water. You can rinse it off, but do not put it in water. Leave it in water. Now, talking about water, it's the method I use most myself. Putting it in water, crystals, in a larger glass bowl, if you have that, preferably glass. Never use plastic, okay? You can use that, but it removes the emotional feeling layers that need to go. And because water is about feelings, right? And emotions, it's feminine energy, and so on and so forth. And personally, I myself think that, or feel, that most of the stuff that could clutter a crystal has to do with emotions. So water is a really good one as far as I feel. And then you put it in water and you leave it in water for up to 3 days. And if there's bubbles appearing in the bowl, in the glass, whatever you're using, or on the crystal, or both, then you have to refresh the water regularly, because the bubbles, the little bubbles or bigger bubbles that you see is actually the negativity that is coming out. And negativity is not like entities and oh my god, no, negativity is you having felt grumpy for days, walking around the home like that, or having been ill. Maybe you have had a lot of stress, maybe there has been conflict, maybe you were angry, whatever. That's all negativity, right? And crystals can, of course, absorb that. Can also be physical. Like I use shungite a lot. I think you say shungite, not shungite. I'm not certain. And I use that a lot because it helps with pain and it alleviates pain. And I use that on my neck. I tape it on my neck, but then it's one of the few crystals that I then allow to cleanse and recharge and, you know, just leave it be for a few days, because I also leave it on my neck for a few days until it starts to irritate me. And so yeah, so it can also be cleansing from stuff, physical stuff, right? If you use a crystal to do some work on your body. It's very good to do that then, to cleanse a crystal then. If it can be put in water, just put it in water first to see if there's bubbles. Because I use that as a test sometimes, you know, when I'm in doubt, when I'm thinking like, would it need cleansing or not? You know, I'm not certain. I actually think not, but I'm not certain. Then I just put it in water, leave it there, and if there's nothing, no bubbles, no nothing, then I know it does not need cleansing. And if bubbles do appear, I just leave it, right? And then refresh the water regularly. So, yeah. Be mindful, of course, with which crystals you put in water, because not all crystals can be put in water. Like selenite, I just picked up this one. It's a thin one. It's actually called a golden healer selenite, and it's very transparent, so not like your usual selenite really, but it's soft. It's a gypsum variety, and you can then not put it in water. You could rinse it off, but you can't put it in water. Leave it in water. Same with calcite. This is also calcite. This is blue calcite. You can rinse it off, but not leave it in water for any length of time. I don't leave it in water at all. But the rinsing of, a lot of people think or say even, like, oh, you can't put that in water, rinse it off on the tap, you know, with tap water, because it will melt. Well, it is not going to melt in your hands right away, just like that, okay? And I know, because I used to think that too, because I read those things as well online. And at some point I was carving a skull, a crystal skull, from a selenite tower. And absolutely beautiful. I don't have it anymore, but it was absolutely beautiful. And then you get all the dust from the gypsum, right, when you start carving it. And I needed to be rid of that so I could see what I had to do with the face. And then someone laughed at me, a good friend of mine, and she was very experienced with crystals. She laughed and she said, it's not going to melt in your hands, you know. You can just really rinse it off. Nothing's going to happen to it. So I went to the tap in the kitchen and I was like, oh my God, you know. But I rinsed it off. Nothing happened. And I did that a great many times as I was working on my skull. Nothing happens to it. But don't leave it in water. Okay? It's the same with, I don't have pyrite myself, but this is a... Oops, I'm not certain if you can see it properly. This is a combination stone, triplite, wagnerite, and there's pyrite in it too. And this one I can't put in water either, because the pyrite, yeah, there you can see it, it's not like it will affect its energy much, really, but it can start to rust. And then it's not so pretty anymore. So I don't put this one in water either. So I could put this one, for instance, on selenite or whatever, you know, anything else, not water. Soil I would do, because that could be damp, of course, but yeah, not as bad as water, of course. It is different. So make sure that you know what to put in water, because once I had a gorgeous, what is it called? Blue, aqua blue. Oh, I can't think of it now. Not chrysopas. I can't think of it now. A beautiful skull. It was aqua and color, and I thought I could put it in water. It was quite the larger skull, something like that, you know. And I put it in water, left it there for a couple of hours, and then went back upstairs, and I heard weird sounds coming from that bowl, and cracking sounds, and I thought, oh my God. Yeah. Not handy, and it was fine. It hadn't broken, but I'm quite sure if I left it in water for much longer, it likely would have broken in a couple of pieces. It was really these cracking sounds. It's like, yeah. I was quite shocked, actually. So I never done that again. So, but other crystals, quartzes for sure, you can always put in water. So, yeah, I'll show you a few of my crystals that I have. I'm going to talk a bit more, tell you a little bit more. This is Ocean Jasper, entirely different from the, the default Ocean Jasper. This is from Madagascar. Well, all Ocean Jaspers are actually, but they recently found ocean jaspers that were entirely different. They had different colors, not these rounds, these typical round thingies that ocean jasper has, which is what I don't like it at all. For some reason, I don't like it. These I did like. I have a few more. And this is a let's see if you can actually see it. Strawberry quartz. A point. Absolutely wonderful. I love that one. And this is a natural citrine, a flame. I love citrine. I'm nuts about citrine. Really am. I got several, and all natural. And even when having natural citrine, the color still is slightly different. And that's because of where it comes from. Like that flame is from Brazil. I have another one from Africa. I have another one from Madagascar. And these locations, yeah, the colors of the citrine are then slightly different. They're still very light because they're natural, right? But different. Anyhow, you can also smudge, use sage to cleanse crystals. But that is, it removes the more mental layers. So then you have to think like, what is actually that I want to cleanse the crystals of? Is that more feeling stuff? Because then it's better to go for water. Or is it the more mental things? And yeah, so you have to just use your intuition, just think about that. Just know, I'm just telling you that so you know that using sage does not get rid of everything. And neither does water, right? Because that's mostly for the feelings, emotional layers. And it might leave other things, other layers in, right? So it's also not a complete healing. You can use soil. But never, ever, ever use potting soil, because that's the acidity of potting soil is too high and might affect your crystal, damage it. I had that happen. I didn't know at the time, and I put it in a flower pot, a really large flower thing that I made with bricks, but it was filled with forest soil, which is even more acid than potting soil, right? Right, I dug up the crystal and it had cracked all over. It was still in one piece, but it wasn't so beautiful anymore. Yeah, so remember that one. Then there is hematite, these anthracite grey, kind of metallic looking tiny crystals, right? You can put a crystal on that to decharge, but it's also not a very thorough cleansing. It does work, of course, it does something. It's not like it doesn't do anything at all, but yeah. And oh yeah, earth. Sorry, I was talking about the soil of the earth. If you want to do a totally thorough cleansing, absolutely thorough, because a crystal needs it. I only do that when a crystal is really in dire shape, right? And thank God that hardly ever happens. Then you can put it in earth, like in your garden, right? You bury it in your garden, in soil. The best thing to then do is, if it's a cluster especially, or if it has these fissures, right? It's not like completely closed, put it in a piece of a pantyhose that you cut off, an old pantyhose, and bury it in the ground with the crystal in it, and leave a piece of that pantyhose sticking out so you do not forget where you bury your crystal. Also, the pantyhose prevents soil from getting in your cluster, so you can't get it cleaned anymore later on, right? And there's all that soil in there. It's like, I don't want this. It really helps. It works beautifully. If it's just a polished crystal like this one, let's say I buried this one in soil, well, there's no need for a pantyhose then, right? But then I put a stick on top of it when I bury it. Otherwise, it's like, oh my God, where did I bury it? And you have to dig up your entire garden. Not funny at all. So I put a stick on top of it. Just a small branchy thing, you know. And then after that soil, you leave it in there for some 24 hours. 3 days is also fine. Then you dig it up, you take it out, rinse it off, so there's no sand on it anymore. And then you can stick it in. You stick it in water. You do that also 24 hours to 3 days. If there's bubbles appearing, you refresh the water regularly. When that's done, you then use either sage, incense, or a flame, a candle flame, and then you quickly move through the flame. Of course, not ever hold a crystal in that flame, right? It's not really very handy. And especially not if it's, for instance, amber, you know, you don't do that. You can also use, if it's something like amber, just use the incense or sage, because fire is part of that as well, right? Then that's air and fire in one, basically. And if you've done that, then you have done a very thorough cleansing of your crystal. And it's a bit of work. It takes, well, not really. It takes a few days. You know, you have to be patient. You have to wait. But if your crystal really is in dire shape, if it's lost its luster and it's just like, my God, it just looks tired, worn out, and you think it's still salvageable, then do this, right? The earth, the water, and then after that the incense, sage, or a candle flame. Then you've had all the elements to cleanse it. You had earth, you had the water, and air and fire is in that last bit in one. And let's see, what else? The charging. Again, if you have a lot of crystals, more high vibrational crystals as well, you don't often have to charge them. But if you do feel you have to charge them, you can do that on selenite. It's absolutely wonderful. I use that a lot these days, if ever I do something like that, right? Selenite. There's always crystals that want to be in full moonlight. And then I just feel, because I have that many crystals, I can't put them all in the moonlight. And I only have one windowsill that actually gets full moonlight. So limited space as well. Can't ever fit 310 or something crystals on there. And so I just feel, I just walk around, and then the crystal, I just open up, get out of my head. I just open up, tune into the full moon and the crystals, and then I just know when I look at a crystal, it just calls me. You just know, like, oh, that one, no, that one's fine. Oh, that one really wants a moon bath, a moonlight bath. Well, and then I put that one in the window, right? And sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 20. Yeah, it just varies. But I leave that up to the crystals. I do feel it helps a lot, the moonlight. Another one that is important is daylight. It's not good to have your crystals stored in boxes, because like it's not like they're gonna die or anything, you know, but it's almost like if we had to live in a cave in the dark, we wouldn't die either. I don't think. Maybe eventually, I don't know, but okay, we're not gonna die. We're staying alive. But it doesn't do us any good, right? It affects our energy levels, our health, our sense of well-being. We're not going to be happy. You know, like when the sun is out, everyone is suddenly beaming and happy and joyful and all that stuff. And it's kind of like that for the crystals too. Crystals need daylight to stay energized and fully energized, basically, so they don't lose their luster. And crystals also work a lot, right? Even if you don't program them, you don't have to at all, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. But they can, like we ourselves, grow and evolve and learn and get more open, more activated. But they can't do that in the dark. They need daylight. And daylight, I'm not talking about direct sunlight. Talk about daylight, right? So I have crystals myself, not many, just some tumbled crystals that are stored in such a fashion that they don't get a lot of daylight. I have no choice because, I haven't the space. And I regularly get them out and put them in proper daylight, and also often get them out. They're in this kind of box. I'm not certain what you call that in English, kind of like a letter box, where in the past printers had every single letter in there. It has sections, it's wood, and it has sections, and each section was for one specific letter, right, for printing. And I've got one of these, not a real one, of course. It was for decoration purposes that these were made. And I've got tumbles in these sections, and so every now and then I also get it out and put it in full moonlight, so these crystals also can continue to just be happy. Okay, I need some coffee and then we'll start talking about the programming. And oh my god, already 23 minutes. Ready, programming. And then I'm going to quit. Then if need be, we can talk later about crystals if people want to. Programming. Now, every crystal is born with its own purpose. Like we are born with our own unique talents and purpose. And not every crystal from the same variety has the same purpose. It can be different from, let's say, rose quartz, right? One rose quartz can have a very different purpose from the next one. So that's also partially, I think, why you feel drawn to one specific rose quartz and not to another piece, right? And they're not the same. They can have a different energy. They will have the energy of rose quartz and do the typical things of rose quartz, but how they do it, you know, and they can have a purpose. They can have the purpose of just being left alone in a room. to do their work, or they can want to work with, well, you, you know, or with a child or whatever. They have their own thing to do, like we have our own thing to do. And it's not like the crystal is sitting like, okay, now I'm here. Now, okay, I'm bored. Tell me what I should do. It's not like that. Crystal does its thing anyway. Meaning that if you want to... Yeah, it was a strand of hair. Anyhow, if you want to program a crystal, it's really, really good to tune into the crystal, to the crystal being, and ask it and feel if it actually wants to work with that program, to do that program, to do that job for you. Because it might actually interfere with what it's already doing for you, your home, whatever, you know, or its own task, its own purpose. So always good to ask, because not every crystal is suited for everything you want to program on it. So always feel, ask, take a moment to tune into that crystal. You will know, you know, you really will know. We all have an inner knowing, an inner teacher, an inner guidance. You will just know. You will either hear it or know it or feel it, whatever. It works a bit different for everyone, of course, but you will know it. And respect it as well, right? If it doesn't want to do that program, to carry that program for you, don't do it. Then find another one who is willing and who can do that for you. Also, never forget to, when it is done, remove that program. Otherwise, the crystal will keep doing that, even 10 years from now. Because the crystal is not going to think like, well, I'm fed up with that and I want to do something else. You just sod it, I'm going to stop doing it. No, crystals don't do that. They do what you ask of them to do. Which is also the problem, that you can easily, if you do that, drain them. So, in that sense, it's also important to choose the right size for the program. If it's something that's really hard work and really serious something, you know, and you choose a very small crystal, it can't handle that. Right? It's like me having to carry the whole weight of the world on my shoulders. Well, sorry, that's too much. I'm going to crumble. It will drain me. And it's like that for crystals too. So you have to choose a large enough size for a crystal to, you know, do that thing for you. And what I myself always do, I don't program my crystals, by the way. I rarely ever program my crystals. I just don't like it, because I know that crystals have their own thing to do, and they just do what is best for me, right? And with our human minds, we often think we know best. But that's not necessarily always the case, right? And we are influenced by our ego and all kinds of things and fears and stuff and all this, that and the other. The crystal basically is perfect. It's shaped and made and pressed together by heat and whatever in Mother Earth. It's not flawed. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. So it's not like... So I sometimes notice that people seem to think that they need to heal the crystal, enhance the crystal, and better the crystal. Well, I'm sorry to say, but that's just such nonsense. It's actually the other way around. Crystals are perfectly made by Mother Earth in nature, and we are the ones who... Well, never mind, let's not get into that, but in that sense, I never program, or hardly ever program crystals, hardly ever. And that's the more feminine way, which is also more congruent with the 5D that we're moving towards. It's like, I'm not going to define what my crystal has to do, what my crystal is good at or whatever. That's more the masculine energy way of doing things. Then you define, you tell it, you order, you direct. That's the masculine way. The feminine way is more flowing, more fluent, allowing things to happen, trusting in it, etc., etc. I just don't like it, and also I'm also quite forgetful in that sense. And with that many crystals, it's also like if I start programming crystals, I should actually make an Excel file or something to keep track of what I put on which crystal. And no, I'm not going to do that. It's too much work. Because I will tell you, if you do not remove that program or stop it at some point, I have a crystal, a larger one like that. It's a crystal point, a clear crystal point, or semi-crystal point. And I could never really feel like, what is it you do? What is it you want? What? He had a very odd energy. And so I tuned into it, and I asked someone else, a crystal master, to tune into it. And he said, well, there is a number of programs on it. So energetically, it's just moving all over the place, you know. It doesn't know what to do then. And like I said, crystals just do what you or someone else has told them to do. And they're not going to stop. So apparently someone programmed that crystal, and maybe that same person puts another program on it after some time, and another one. And then the crystal is just going to, energetically, it's just all over the place. And it's not doing anything really anymore. So this friend of mine, he removed it. And so then it can just do its own thing again, you know. So it's really important to remember. Otherwise, it's like installing too much software on your computer or something, whatever software that is basically the same and clashes or what. It's very similar in that sense. So now I did program a crystal the other day with the meditation, but then, which I liked, and I had never thought of that before really, the idea was to do that for a short period of time. So for instance, 3 days or a week. Or no, I chose to go for a month, right? Because then I skipped that part where I forget what I put on what, and then that factor is gone then, right? Because I said clearly for just a month only, and then it just stops, and you can program that in, right? Now, I'm not certain did I now tell that or not. I always tell my crystals, I think I was going to tell you, but I didn't yet. I always tell my crystals to only use 80% of their energy. And sometimes less. It depends on the quality, vibration of your crystal, of course, what it can handle, and the size. But I always tell my crystals 80% standard. If it's different, I will tell it that, but it's default for me, my crystals is 80%. Reason for that is simple. It means you can actually really never drain your crystal, right? Because it only ever uses 80% for you, meaning it's got 20% left to recharge, to cleanse, or to do its own thing, or whatever. Chances of then draining your crystal are slim. And sometimes with some crystals, I say 60% or 70%. So you have to just feel what works for you, for your crystal, to do with the programming, if you or just in general, you know. I also do that if I'm not programming it, but if I'm, for instance, holding this citrine, if I'm holding it to work like on my solar plexus or something for a bit, you know, I'm just sitting there. And I just want that. And then I also tell that. But in general, all my crystals know anyway. Because I just told all of them, you know, never ever more than 80% of your energy. Because you really can drain your crystals. I've had that as well when I made a huge grid. And it was absolutely huge. A lot of crystal skulls. So very powerful energy and crystal points and stuff. And it was quite large. It was almost a meter diameter, I think. And but the program, I had programmed that, because you make a grid to program to do something specific, right? And that program was quite serious, was quite intense, and I left it for a few months, I think. And then at some point I began to notice that one crystal skull was actually really seriously looking like, oh my god, like, bull, I've had it, you know, I need a break, seriously. And that was the most powerful skull, crystal skull, that I had. Yeah, it never really fully recovered to that point anymore. It did recover, but not, you know, and so it did affect it. And so it is important to think about these things if you want to keep your crystals, well, lively and powerful and full of energy and shining and having luster and all that stuff. And then they can also open, activate more, and so on and so forth. They can grow, develop them, right? Which will benefit you as well. So this is it for now, because it's long enough. I'm gonna cook my dinner, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.